Hello and welcome to another episode of Mysteries with a History, where I'll take you on a wild ride into the unknown, the strange, and the mysterious. Like you, I have questions, and like you, I want answers. There's more to this world than most think or believe. Mysteries that stretch back into murky epochs of time, that hint of other realms, other worlds, and other intelligences. We're on this journey together. With each episode, we will peel away the layers to look for the truth. We are back at it again with a part 3 of the mysteries of Egypt. And it is a land of many mysteries that date back to ancient times. And to this day, discoveries are being made which challenge established theories and notions regarding how long civilization existed in those lands. Today, we will be talking about ancient temples, the Egyptian gods, and somewhat more modern practices that involve Egypt and the dead. To help me today is my co host, Puck, the Puckwaji. And let me also bring in my other special co host, Jimmy Church of Fade to Black Radio. Jimmy, how's it going?
How you doing?
I am doing pretty snazzy today. How are you doing?
I'm cold. I'm tired. I'm worn out. Looks like you're cold.
Yes, I am cold. Puck has a lot of extra fur and padding, so he's not cold.
I got my Fender sweatshirt on, and it's not warm enough. It's cold. I'm out here in the desert, man, and it don't play in the winter.
No, sir, it does not. I would like to say hello to everyone in the live chat. Thank you to coming to this show live, as every single Thursday, these shows are live. Jimmy, I called you on the phone earlier today and I'm like, so what parts of Egypt are we covering today? Please inform our beautiful audience what's going to be covered.
Here, she indeed did make that phone call.
Like 2 hours ago.
Well, see, the thing is, I keep saying it. I'm repeating myself. I'm still unpacking, my mind, and I'm going through. And we saw so much, and I photographed so much, and then going through, I shot so much video, and just going through, and I was. Okay, let's do this, and this. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do this, and this. But I was going through my videos. I was going through my images, and it's just one video after another. And so today, very, very special treat. I've got 3 never before seen videos. Cristina hasn't seen them as well. I just uploaded them into the studio. And but today we're going to go back to Abydos, but this show is mysteries with a history. So we're going to go back to Abydos, and it's not going to be what you think. So stay there. We're going to talk about Abydos today, and we're going to talk about the Serapeum. I've got 3 videos from the Serapeum. Quite lengthy, by the way. And we're going to go through, and I've got some other images of some historical stuff from the Serapeum. Some say the Serapeum. I'm going with Serapeum. It's probably Serapeum, but I don't know. It's just Serapeum my entire life, and I've heard some other.
It just kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit easier as well. Like it kind of has like a nice flow to it.
Yeah, Serapeum. I don't know.
Yeah, Serapeum. It just sounds nice. But before
Colosseum, we don't say Colosseum, right?
That does sound kind of odd.
Yeah, it sounds kind of strange, right? And the same thing with Serapeum. So Serapeum, we're going to be doing that today. And we're going to discuss some of the ancient gods of Egypt, which also falls back to Abydos. Okay, so all of this fits in to each other, and
And
one of now you've brought this up with me now for 3 weeks. The mummy parties, and and we're gonna discuss this tonight, and a lot of
are
people,
we going to unwrap it,
yeah,
Jimmy?
we're gonna unwrap it because and there was a time, most people don't know this. Now, I'm just going to say this phrase, and I want you to absorb it. There was a time around the world, and specifically in the United States, where it was the fresh in to the curb thing to do was to have a mummy from Egypt in your living room. Come on over. We're having a dinner party tonight. Check this out, right? Okay, so what am I saying with that? We're gonna talk about these unwrapping parties and the history of that in the United States and the market. There was a huge market for this. So
There was. There was
yeah,
a huge one. It was believed that you couldn't visit Egypt without bringing a mummy back home. And that's where it is kind of weird, but we'll save that for a little bit later. I do want to get to your videos first, but before we even get into that, first I want to say, Oracle, thank you so much for the super sticker. Deranged Lunatic, thank you as well. Neurostream, appreciate you. Michael Huggins says, Christina, Puck, and Jimmy, thank you for including Puck. I do appreciate that. You're cold. You need to be here in the UK. Seen your photo yesterday and spotted the UFO, but dismissed what I was seeing. I have so many questions. I don't know where to begin. Well, Michael, you came to the right place.
yeah, exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth.
And Sever, thank you so much as well for the super sticker, starting the show out strong. I really do appreciate all of this because this is going to the RV fund. For those that are new, the RV fund is where I'm going to buy a motorhome and travel the United States, hitting all of the UFO and paranormal hotspots. It's going to be pretty darn cool. So I appreciate everyone.
Did you peep out the video that I posted today?
Yeah, I did. I
You
saw
saw
it.
the UFOs over Palmdale, right?
I did.
Pretty nuts, right? And so that RV needs to come to Palmdale. I'll take you to, I'll take you to the hotspot. That video today, I had shot it. Here's the thing: we're talking about Egypt today, but I want everybody to go and watch this video so you can understand. People have said to me over and over again, "Where's the video? How come you didn't shoot, video?" And it's a lot of work to get a cell phone camera up onto night vision.
Yep.
Meanwhile, something is probably going to disappear, right? So you're too busy looking at it. This particular night, it was 1 a.m. in the morning, Christina, and I'm out there looking at the stars, and something catches my eye, and I go, "What is that?" Right. And it was one after another. And this went on for about 3 or 4 minutes. And that's when I went, pew, shot in the, grabbed my cell phone, came back out. I was freaking out and I'm trying to get it all. And I shot. So that video is about 8 or 9 minutes long. And you see, and it's different points in the sky. It's not like it's Starlink, it's all in one. It's all
Right.
over the place, appearing and lighting up. And there was this giant tree in my neighbor's yard blocking them as they were going by. But anyway, that is a crazy video, and I can't explain that. Where you couldn't see it with the naked eye. I want everybody to understand. You can't, only in night vision. But it was like directly north of me, and out there, it's I don't know, hard to explain, but out there, open desert. There's nothing there. There's nothing there for hundreds of miles. Very strange video, and it's one of the most amazing things I've seen in my life. And this was the time it lasted long enough that I captured everything on video. So everybody go and check it out.
Was it cooler than the beer can sighting you had?
The beer can sighting was daytime. That was a physical, real sighting. That was the holy grail of UFO sightings. So no, nothing will ever top that. But this is pretty incredible. It's just go watch it. It's very self-explanatory. I was talking to Cristina earlier today when she called. I was in the middle of doing the edit on that video, and I'm not a video editing guru, so I don't know how to enlarge and slow-mo and do all of that stuff. I pop the video in, throw on some title screens, and hit render. It's about as far as I can go with it. So, but it's a self-explanatory thing. Just go watch the video. It's 9 minutes long. It's tremendous. There's probably 20, 30, 40 of these things in the video. I haven't counted that just appear, move, brighten up, and it's crazy. I can't explain it.
Let's start off the show with talking about Abydos. Now, we've mentioned it a few times prior in the last few weeks, but what in particular do you have new for us, Jimmy?
Well, let me pop something up here. Okay, let me start with this. Abydos is first off, it's the oldest of the old in Egypt.
That's right.
It's ancient. So it predates everything that we're so familiar with, like the Sphinx and the Bent Pyramid and the Great Pyramid and the Step Pyramid. All of those, the Red Pyramid, predates all of that by hundreds and thousands of years. And here's the deal. It's Abydos itself. It's about 300 miles south of Cairo. It's about 5 or 6 miles, maybe 7 miles west of the Nile River. So, Cairo's east of the Nile. Giza's west of the Nile. So if you go south of Giza, 300 miles, you run into Abydos. Abydos is 200 miles north of Aswan, where all the red granite came from. So Aswan's 500 miles away. So there you go. So kind of puts you in context of where it is, in the middle of the desert, out there in the middle of nowhere. But it is so significant for a number of different reasons. Number one, all of the, when I say all, going with a big word there, all of the leaders of Egypt before the pharaohs were buried there. Okay, now there are direct dating measurements of very significant moments that are specifically dated to 3100 BC. Okay, that's over 5,000 years ago. Number one. Number two, but that's the hard dating. The history of Abydos goes back 1, 2, 3, 4,000 years before that date. All right. Now there were before the pyramids and before the temples, the Valley of the Kings, the royalty and the important leaders were buried in Abydos, and that's where the design of tombs and these ideas happen. But also in Abydos was the creation of writing and hieroglyphics. And this is significant for many, 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 many different reasons. But I'm going to pull up some images here. And when you look at these images, just everybody stay with me. Just be patient. I've got this ginormous Cristina Gomez thing going on here. And so let me pull this up.
And while it did harbor some of the oldest pharaohs in that temple, it still maintained its significance with the Egyptian civilization to the point where it became the center of worship for the god Osiris, the god of the underworld.
And
So,
yes, and we're going to get to that because that is very, very, very important. All right, that's it, and we'll get to that in just a second. I didn't mean to cut you off. Cristina was filling the gap as I was pulling up these images. Well done, very professional, Cristina. Well done. This, what you are looking at here, is the oldest and earliest forms of writing on planet Earth. Okay, so take a good look. Now, what these are tags. All right. And as you can see, there's a little hole on each one of these. I've got a bunch, and I'm going to share them with you. These were put on items for taxes. Okay? Now, what this would do, and for the ability to collect taxes, right? The government, number one. Number two, it would have the name, location, and possibly even a time of year. And that's what these tags represented. Now, you can take a look at this and see, obviously, that this all evolved into hieroglyphics, right, at later dates. So now these are dated, and this is what is important because of the tombs, the burial sites, and around Abydos in these archaeological digs that they're doing. You can carbon date these, and these date to at least, like I said, 3100 BC. And elegant, beautiful, right? Here's another tag. You can see the hole, right? And a very reminiscent of cuneiform as well, with the triangles, pushing into the clay with the stick, right? And forming it into the clay before it's baked. Check this one out. Again, these are all tags. So remember what I had said earlier, just a moment ago, about dating and time and location and a name. It could be the farmer, it could be the merchant, the time of year. It's very important for grains or things like that. So here you have these depictions. You've got locations. You've got a time of year. You've got the possibility of names, but you can see that hieroglyphics were starting to take shape. I love the spiral up here. Isn't that just beautiful?
it is.
And just incredible. All of this is Abydos, and so when we talk about the famous technology-driven hieroglyphic of the helicopter and maybe a tank or a boat and the UFO. Yes, all of that is Abydos. But Abydos is much more significant and broad than just that. So Abydos later was the site of Seti I, his temple. Seti I developed the King's List, all right, the history of Egypt. And that chronological list, which I have shown on the show previously, shows all of the cartouches of most of the dynastic pharaohs of Egypt, all the way from the first pharaoh, Mene or Narmer. All right, Mene was his birth name. Narmer was his pharaonic name, right, when he became pharaoh. So King Narmer. And from Mene or Narmer all the way through Seti I, his father, Ramses I. So it's a complete list going back at that point about 2,600 years. All right, 30 dynasties. and it's incredible. This is Abydos, and that's the importance of it. Tombs there, and at least one temple are of all of the rulers of pre-dynastic Egypt. All right, so that's the significance of Abydos. So when you go there, every pharaoh and every dynastic period after that realized the significance and the importance of Abydos and continued to develop the site, build other temples and burials and things. And this continued on for thousands of years, or 2,000 years. The first pharaoh, Narmer, again, we're guessing somewhere between 3,000 and 3,100 BC. It wasn't for another 400 years. Remember, that's the first dynasty. The fourth dynasty is the period of pharaohs that allegedly, I'll say, constructed Giza. So before Giza, before the pyramids, and before Saqqara, it was all about Abydos, and everything was centered there. The beginning of the governments, the joining of Upper and Lower Egypt. Upper Egypt is the lower part of Egypt on the map. Lower Egypt is the upper part, and that's because the Nile flows to the north instead of to the south. So because of that, Upper Egypt is the southern part of Egypt, and it was Narmer, Mene, that joined Upper and Lower Egypt into one country, again, based out of Abydos. The pharaohs of the first dynasty, the first dynastic period, were buried in Abydos, which obviously included Narmer, and who was the founder of the first dynasty, and including his successor, Aha. That's right. Aha, A-H-A. Some pharaohs of the second dynasty were also buried there. Abydos eventually, in a very short period of time, became the religious center of all of Egypt, which included Isis and Osiris. And this was a very big deal. And we're going to be going over some of the gods of Egypt a little bit later. But this is why Abydos is so important. It's also difficult to get to. So when you take a tour of Egypt, you may go to Luxor, and you can go to Karnak, and you might go to Aswan, 500 miles south. To go to Abydos, that's 200 miles north of Aswan and Luxor and Karnak, and you have to drive from the Nile River, and you have to go inland to Abydos, another 7 miles. So it's a difficult drive. It's a difficult location to get to. Very, very important, but most don't get a chance to do it because of the way where it's located and the way that tours and your guides are setting up travel through Egypt. It's a very difficult place to get to. But I would strongly suggest to anybody that is going to Egypt to try to get to Abydos. It's that important in world history.
And it's a location that you can't spend just an hour there. We need to spend probably months there to attempt and absorb everything that is presented in that temple and all the hieroglyphs and things like this. Before I continue, Sever, thank you again for the super sticker. I appreciate that. What I found really interesting when looking at the history of hieroglyphs, you had mentioned a little bit earlier that there were tags for like taxes, locations, and things like this. But for the Egyptians, they even had a type of cursive writing as well. And this blew my mind. The picture that we're looking at is not one of those examples, but their cursive was actually written on papyrus, which is for them a kind of sturdy type of paper made from the plant papyrus that grows just right off of the Nile. And when I was coming across that, I thought, I really only imagine there being hieroglyphs and that's it, the ones that we see on the temples that are either carved or painted.
Mhm.
But they had a very specific one for their tags that you had demonstrated, Jimmy. And they even had a type of cursive that they usually wrote on papyrus with a paintbrush because it was a little bit easier to do in the same way that cursive for us
It was a
when we
continuous
write.
script. It was a
Well,
continuous. Uh,
on top of it being continuous, in the Egyptian, ancient Egyptian language, and when you're looking at hieroglyphs, there were no periods, there were no punctuations, there were no commas. So everything was just exactly how you see it. And for quite a few Egyptologists, it's even to this day very difficult to attempt and read what is being said with these hieroglyphs if you don't have a grasp of the language. And not just that, what's really interesting is that sometimes the reading can go from left to right, right to left, and up and down. It goes all ways. And when I
yeah.
read that, I'm thinking, can it be more complicated? Can it?
The answer is no.
No. No, of
And
course
the
not.
answer is no. And it's such an important point to continuously drive home with everybody. After Cleopatra, no, and she was Greek, but after Cleopatra, everybody in Egypt got amnesia and forgot their culture. They forgot how to write and read hieroglyphics. They forgot how to speak the language, and everything just disappeared. Cleopatra came in, although she was Greek, she came in and wanted to learn everything. She wanted to speak the language. She wanted to read and write and hieroglyphics, and this was very important to her and the history of Egypt. After she died and Egypt fell, that was it. It was just a few short years later that nobody knew what the pyramids were there for. Nobody remembered the temples. Nobody knew how to read the writing that adorned all of these walls and
And no
temples.
one knows how it's pronounced either. You can attempt to read the hieroglyphics and understand it, but to speak it, to know the vowels that are used and the pronunciation, it's unknown,
It
at
was
least to my
forgotten. It
knowledge.
was forgotten for 2,000 years, and so everybody was trying to decipher hieroglyphics. Nobody could do it, and of course, Napoleon and his army. They're in Egypt, and they were at the site of Rosetta, where they found the stone, which is now called the Rosetta Stone, of course, which had three different languages carved into it, inscribed into it, and one of them being Greek. And so they knew that probably these three different languages were saying the same thing, and hopefully this would, and that's exactly what happened. It was the Rosetta Stone that allowed us to crack the code. And it took another 30 years. It wasn't like, they did it that week. No, it took a long time, but it was cracked. But that didn't happen until the 1830s. That was until 200, it wasn't until 200 years ago. So please remember, from the time of Cleopatra, let's just call it year zero. Okay, roughly year zero. Almost 2,000 years later, we finally cracked hieroglyphics and were able to figure out not only how to read it, but the names of these kings. What were the cities called? What was daily life like? And being able to finally go back and read it, which we can now certainly do today. But Christina, this is a modern thing. Egypt is 5,000 years old, and it wasn't until 200 years ago that we were able to read hieroglyphics. It's absolutely an incredible story and a very important part of history that we kind of get lost in, because we see the scripts today, we see the hieroglyphics, we see the names and the cartouches, but this is modern knowledge, right? And like I said, Egypt completely got amnesia. Completely. They forgot everything. They forgot all of their history, and it happened overnight.
And
So,
it's
yeah, go ahead.
it's incredibly unfortunate. Amelia, thank you so much for the super chat. It says loving Egypt's mysteries. Thank you, Christina and Jimmy. Thank you.
You are so welcome. All right. Yeah, let's I've got a lot of stuff that I want to present today. But before we get to the videos are a tease. You have to wait. And when we come back from the break. No, let's go back, since we're talking about, the 1830s hieroglyphics. Finally, the code gets cracked, and everybody's going over to Egypt, and the British are, putting everything they can into boats and getting it over to the British Museum. The French are filling up the Louvre and all of the artifacts, and it wasn't just the Brits and the French. It was Spain. It was Italy. People from the United States. It was a big deal to go over to Egypt and grab artifacts and get them onto the black market and get them into museums and, of course, into people's homes. And one of the things was mummies. And now there was a point in Egypt, Cristina, where it seemed like you could walk out into the sand, west of Cairo, and trip over a mummy. It was like that. It was mummies were everywhere, weren't they?
They were. You could literally buy them off the street from the books and articles that have been written at that time, where you had usually
sidewalk vendors had them propped up against the storefronts.
Exactly. You had a lot of grave diggers and at that time, because they were aware that there was a market for mummies. And let's really dive deep into that. Not only were people buying full-blown mummies to take back home with them across the sea, but there was this thing called mummy mania. It just swallowed up good parts of Europe, because there was a faith that mummies could cure illnesses that drove people for centuries to ingest something that tasted awful, meaning people would grind up mummies, dead people, and they're like, all right, here you go, this is going to cure your headache, this is going to cure your stomach ache, this is going to cure this and that and this and that.
Yep.
And for about 500 years there was these prescriptions, these medical prescriptions that doctors would give people since the 12th century and be like, all right, here's a nice powdery crushed up mummy, go ahead and take that and you're gonna feel great afterward.
Yes.
So there's always been this type of mummy mania, but it wasn't really until the 1800s where it kind of got out of control, where if you were wealthy enough and you could travel to Egypt and come back, you're able to purchase a mummy literally off the streets. You would take it back home with you. You'd call up your friends, which at that time you would call them up or write them a letter, depending on how you were vibing at that time. And you would say, hey, come to my place, bring your own booze, and we're going to have a unwrapping party. And they're like, oh, what's that? Don't worry, sweetheart, you are in for a treat.
Yes.
So they walk into the house, usually probably a mansion, right? And they're like, hey, I brought the best wine there is. Let's have this unwrapping party. But like, what does that mean? And then they walk into the dining room and they see this mummy just flat out on the table. And they're like, okay, grab the scissors. We're going to start unwrapping this. And this was a party attraction.
Would you, Cristina, would you put a mummy in your living room?
No.
Would you put one on display?
I guess.
I mean, what?
Okay, if you're asking Cristina of like born and raised in the United States? Absolutely not. Now, if I was growing up in that culture during that time period, it would be a different answer. But if you're looking at me right now in 2022, no, I am going to pass on that one because I've heard of enough paranormal stories
Right.
of hitchhiker effect and parasites and things like this. And you know what? I'm not for that. I do not want to bring a dead person that was very happily buried and bring it into my house for fun, for a decoration. It's
Have you
very
seen
overall disrespectful.
have you seen a mummy in a museum? Have you seen one?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. It is a very extreme experience to go through. You're looking at, first off, a dead body, but you're looking at a dead body with the attempt at preserving it as it was when it was alive, right? So there's that part. And then when it's a little bit morose, it's a very strange feeling because you're not looking at a skeleton. You're seeing the hands, in a position. You're seeing the face. You're seeing the skin is still there, tight and withdrawn, and all of that. But when you unwrapped it, so when you see a mummy in a museum, which I just saw, the pharaoh family at the museum in Cairo. I think there's 22 royal mummies, all Ramses, Seti, and so forth. Anyway. If you're unwrapping these mummies, what is it that you're going to see? And what was the appeal to the surprise? Now look at this picture, right? That's unwrapping a mummy. Why would you do that? But
It was that thrill factor.
it was, and this was happening all over the world. This was a big deal.
It was, and even more interesting for them, at least to my understanding, is that when it came to mummification hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, they would take out all of the organs out of the body, all of everything, right? So when these people had purchased the mummies off the streets in the 1800s, they were really just seeing bone and skin, nothing really more to that. And there's something that I do want to mention before we continue, and this is a question for the people in the live chat. Did you see Monday's episode of The Unknown Zone, the mysteries of the Sphinx? Let me know in the live chat because next week the topic will be on portals, both in science and the paranormal. My second favorite subject, right next to Puckwedgies, is
Mm,
portals.
mm.
But when we are looking at an image like this and attempting to understand why this was becoming a thing, well, it actually started in the late 1800s, once again, where you had one very particular surgeon that wanted to understand on a mummy the body. And for about 100 years, it stopped. People stopped doing this. It became just like a practically a kind of a no-no, right? Unwrapping parties died down during the 19th century. And it wasn't until recently, actually, like when I'm saying recently, I'm saying within the months, there was another type of, and this is in quotation marks, unwrapping party where you had a scientist, a surgeon, and I believe an archaeologist. I think he's all of those things. And he went ahead and unwrapped a mummy after 100 years of it not being done. And I found that pretty darn interesting.
Not me, man. Not gonna do it. When I went to see the new display at the new Egyptian Museum of Civilization, and downstairs, it's very solemn. It's very spiritual. You're not allowed. You can't talk. You can't take pictures, and you just you walk through and you see the lineage, right, of these dynasties down there. There's 9 Ramses, right? 9. Okay. So as you're going through and you're looking at the mummification process, remember they remove the brain through the nose. So you have a solid skull, right? It's not like they cut the skull apart and remove. No, right? They pull the brain out through the nose. All of the internal organs are removed and put in jars, right? And those are buried with, just in case you need them later in the afterlife, right? Okay, so this process, yeah, there you go. Thank you for that, Cristina. That's awesome. That's awesome. Is it an animation? Are we going to see something? There it is, being pulled out through the nose. And as you look, and I'm serious. I looked at Seti the first. I looked at Ramses the first and the second. I looked at Hatshepsut. Right. How do I say this? It wasn't like they were dead. No, I mean they're so well preserved, and when you're looking at something that's 4,000 years old, crazy. It was just a very strange feeling. Also, okay, one last thing before there's Mark Tasaka, is I felt that the skulls, the body, small in stature, right? Not 7 foot, not 6 foot. I'm talking about 5 foot, 5.5 feet. Obviously frail and thin because they're mummies, but you're not. And the skulls were small, and so I'm looking at the skulls, tiny, but the back part of the skulls were elongated. Not on all of them, but on many of them. There was a definite deforming on the back of the skulls. It's not round like ours, but definitely protruding out the back. And you could see where the spinal cord is attaching, right, to the bottom of the skull. And you can see the jawline. All of that looks natural from the face forward, and so, but out of the back, yeah, very strange. And I'm saying this as an eyewitness. I saw this myself, and I found it very, very, very strange to see this. So I can't explain it. But the mummification process is so perfect, and you're looking at it, you can see the skin. Some of the royal mummies, braided hair, it's incredible. But you would see this protrusion out of the back of the skull.
That is weird. Why do you think that is? Before you answer that, Mark Tasaka, thank you so much. It says, "Hi, Cristina and Jimmy. Happy that I could catch your live stream. Please keep up the excellent work." Thank you,
Tasaka.
So we briefly talked about this last week when it came to elongated skulls. Why do you think that's the case? For those that didn't catch it last week,
I just don't know. And the boarding of skulls and things, and there's different versions of it. There seems to be something natural where you don't have the suture marks and the cracks in the skull. Everything is solid, and it doesn't make any sense. And that's in Peru and different cultures around the world did it. It wasn't just Peru. But when you go over to Egypt and you see the carvings, you see some of the statues, there is a very pronounced elongated skull thing that is going on. And a lot of hats seem to be hiding this. I'm just saying, you see it now. Is it artistic license? Were they just drawing and carving people in this fashion, or were they represented that way? Well, that's what you see on the wall. Then you go and look at some of these mummies, and I'm not so sure. I don't know. It looks natural to me. It doesn't look like a cone head or something. You know what I mean? That was shaped that way. No, I think it was natural. It's a very strange thing to see for sure. So let's. I'm looking at the clock. I've got 3 videos. You guys want to talk about the Serapeum?
Yes. Let's take a look at it.
The Serapeum. The Serapeum. The Serapeum.
I'm ready.
All right. The Serapeum. Okay. Check this out. Now, I'm going to lay this out because I was there. And so you have to understand this perspective. All right. Step pyramid. Right there, Dozier, right? You're looking at it. It's magnificence. And it's big. And it's beautiful. And you're standing looking at where it just takes up your entire, and when you're driving across the desert, Cristina, you can see 10 miles away, right? You see the step pyramid, right? It's way out there. And you're talking, man, that thing is just big. And next to it, you could see some other pyramids that have crumbled and fallen, but it's flat desert. Okay? It's just flat desert. And you're driving and you can see it off in the distance. So that's what you pull up to. And you walk down and you've got the step pyramid in front of you. And then you go to the Serapeum. And you turn around, you go off, down, around. It's a good walk. It's not, it's not close. But you're walking through the desert. You round this corner, you go down, you're on this dirt road, sand road, and you round the corner and you come around, it's sand dunes. Sand, it's the Sahara Desert, man. And there's this entrance below the sand that takes you into the Serapeum. Now, I'm going to show you a video of me walking down to the entrance of the Serapeum. When you then just listen to me, you go through this door, and all of a sudden, you are in the Mall of America. These giant hallways underneath under the sand. Giant, ginormous, beyond description big, just under the sand. And you have to experience it like that. You just need to picture that in your mind. You're just walking through the sand. You go down some steps and you go through this door, and then bam, it is so big. Now, I've got 3 videos. Let's pop this first one. Okay, here we go. Billy, Elizabeth,
Right.
What a day, huh?
Amazing day.
What a day.
Just, you guys, thank you for being the best host and making this the best birthday ever. But we have 80 people behind us that are so happy, and it's just been incredible.
Day one.
Day one.
We're going to the Halls of the Mentee. Enki's Halls of the Mentee.
Well, it depends if my knees hold out. They got that rejuvenation chamber in there. Now, I'm going to stop this right there. Okay? We're going down. It's sand, Sahara Desert above us. This gentleman here is Jimmy. He is our guide. He's become one of my close friends. Amazing, amazing. Look at his smile, right? But that doorway, it's so, and before this was discovered, this was buried in sand. They didn't dig this up. I've got some images that I will show you. This didn't get uncovered until 1831. 1831, Cristina, 1831, less than 200 years ago. All right? Now, watch this. There's Jimmy. Jimmy, thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely
Thank you, Jimmy.
wonderful
Thank you,
trip.
Billy. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Great work.
Thanks,
As
everyone.
usual.
Well, they are giving me the opportunity. It's like to feel better and, to lift my spirit every time.
Right.
Putting me with the best people, actually. Thank you. Thank you for everyone for being here.
Just absolutely incredible. And I feel great, the energy.
Yeah.
And can I just say this?
Yeah.
The people of Egypt, the loveliest, most amazing,
Yeah.
Makes
Just-
my heart melt.
Everybody's been so nice.
Yeah.
so nice and so cool.
Talk about
Well,
Ed's going to let me shoot
let's
his gun
discover a
later.
hidden mystery
Yes.
again. Our master will lead this trip.
All right.
Let's go in.
You can put on your headsets.
Headsets.
How are you? Oh, no way. Look at that. Cristina, it's the middle of the desert. It's the middle of the desert. It's just, and here we go. Just watch what's about to happen. I'm going to post them. Well, I'll put them in the group, but I'm going to make a movie with Billy. But yeah, I'm going to post the individual stuff for everybody here.
Well, we can on the way out.
Yeah. These are the small ones.
Please get ready for one of the least secrets in the area. We're going to call the names and we're going to listen for him. Yes? Please, let's proceed.
All right, everyone, come on in.
Oh my. That is huge. That's got to be 10 feet by 20 feet.
See, Jimmy, this was one time.
Yeah. Oh my. All right. Now that's our tour group, right? Our 80 friends are coming in behind us, and we have the Serapeum to ourselves, right? Okay. And so now I come down the stairs. I turn. That's the first thing you see, and then to the left and to the right, it's just this endless hallway. And let me present this to you. And this is a pretty crazy thing to see. And it's this. Let me go here. This is from 1831. 1831. This is a map. You can see it right here. I'm sorry, 1851. 1851.
My
This is the
goodness.
first cartography that was done. Now, what you just saw as I came down these stairs here, I went into the entrance here. I made the left-hand turn, went down the stairs, and then that was the first tomb that's what you see in the video, right? And then I point the camera down this hallway. I'm going to tell you right now, man, it goes on forever. And it's huge. The hallway is huge, right? Now, so this is, again, all under the sand. There's nothing above that. When you're above ground, it's nothing but sand. You don't see this, right? Okay. So
And Jimmy, one thing for those that are just listening in that don't have the visuals, can you kind of explain those large pieces of stone that you saw inside of the Serapeum? What were they?
okay. So a couple of different versions. It depends on who you speak to. All right. These are definitely 100% black granite boxes. Now, what the purpose of those boxes were for and the lids, don't know. They say they were for cows. They buried oxes, bulls in these ginormous I'm going to show you in a video how big these boxes are. You are just what you're seeing. When I say 10 feet by 20 feet in the video, I'm talking about 10 feet wide. It would not fit one of those in my studio. My studio is, it might fit. This is 15 feet by 30 feet. Okay, so these boxes, I'm guessing 10 feet by 20 feet, 10 feet tall. 10 feet tall. Now, it doesn't look that big here. Now, I'm going to get to the videos here, and you'll be able to see. Here, this is from 1874. 1874. It's 100 years ago. Look at the height of these guys. They're 6 feet tall, right? See the sarcophagus right here? Does that put you into any type of concept? That's the door. That's the stairs that I came down, and that's the sarcophagus that I saw. I walked up to it, and I'm looking. I'm just like, wait a minute here. Wait. And then you look down the hallway, and there is one after another, as far as the eye can see.
Dan,
All right,
do you happen to have an idea of how many are in there?
Well, if we go back and look here, here, I think the count is 60. All right. Now, there is a closed off portion of the Serapeum down here you can't get into. So, but here is a map of it here, but you can't. It's closed off. Here in this count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 that you can see. 22 10-foot tall, 20, 30 feet long, 100, 200 ton sarcophagus. The lids are nearly as tall as I am. The lid is 3.5, 4 feet thick. All right, so now let's continue.
Holy moly.
Yeah. Here, just to give you an idea, this is one of my images here. This is now you can walk underneath this and not hit your head. All right, so that gives you an idea of the thickness here. The reason why I took this picture is it appears that it's melted. You see all of these spots? This is black granite, carved flat with hieroglyphics. It's gorgeous, but look, it's melted. It's really weird. If you're going to carve this, wouldn't you carve these flat? Right? Why would you leave? So. Why would you leave these under? You see, and you see how this shape is right here. It's melted. And more on that in just a bit. All right. So now, here we go. I want you to watch this second video. I'm walking down the hallway, okay? And this melted part, just watch what happens. And Billy has been on the show talking about this. So here we go. I'll stop the video. It's just everywhere. Ginormous, one after another. And just, I'm looking at something that's probably 10 feet tall. That lid is at least 3 feet thick. Yeah. And to put it into kind, this is how big I am. Look. They're asking me to go somewhere. But I'm panning to the left and to the right. By 10 feet high. Just one after another. How you doing?
How you doing?
Just how did they get it in here? Here's another one. It's just crazy. Look at this. The hallway's like, I don't know, 25 feet tall. Left, right, left, right, left, right, all the way down, one after another.
It just don't make no sense.
At least.
Interesting.
Okay. So I'm going to stop this here. The priest gave us special access. All right, we're the only people in the Serapeum at this point, and they allow us to go down into this area. I've tried to describe to you the size of this. Now, in a second, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. But then Billy, you'll see, they bring me down, and I go to the back, and we're going to look at a melted part of this. It looks like it came out of the wall and blasted this sarcophagus. So I'm going to let this roll, but I want everybody to pay close attention to when I shoot down in just a second, and you can see everybody standing underneath the lid. Just check this out.
So just to put it in, they're walking underneath it. That's how tall, that's how thick the lid is. And they're all the same. Look how far back. So, yes. Okay, I'm coming. Okay. Can I get by, everybody? Thank you so much.
That's
I'm being a diva. I'm cutting in line. I'm a straight diva.
You're allowed to. Come from this way.
This way? I'll follow you, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Billy wants you to.
Thank you.
Billy? Jimmy.
Billy, here I am.
Yeah.
All right, Jimmy, take a look. Oh, this is it? This is the spot?
You're right there.
Okay.
Let Jimmy take a peek in here real quick, guys.
Oh, this is the blast.
Right there.
Now, Jimmy,
Yes.
turn around. Excuse me, sir.
Can you say that again?
Look at the track from that to there. That's where the energy came out. I believe that energy came through here,
Blasted out of the wall.
blasted out of the wall, and came and hit the granite right here.
So we come down here, and this is, here, hold this, Billy. So, just so everybody, here, Billy, actually hold the camera. Okay, so just to show, this is flat, and then here, it's melted, and this is curved in all the way down at the bottom of the granite. You can see it's all melted all down here. It's curved and melted.
It takes a very exotic type of energy to change the atomic structure of this to be able to do this.
Well,
without
and
cracking it and breaking it.
and Billy, see, here's the thing, and you pointed this out to me before. The lines are consistent.
Yeah.
They're not distorted.
Right.
It was melted and pushed in.
Yeah.
And kept everything intact. And you can see the line, right? This line goes all the way. Yeah, you can see the line coming down.
Melt or the lines came first?
You can see.
There's the energy came from that back.
No, the lines came first.
The lines.
The lines came first. They were already here.
It's all carved, all the hieroglyphics, it's all carved, and then the blast came in from that wall out and hit this here and melted it.
You're going to see melted steps in
I
the
thi-
Temple of Dendera also.
I think this is one of the best evidence that we have for high technology.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right here. And there's no denying what we're looking at
Right.
here.
It's just amazing.
That is.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Billy's been telling me about this for years and years and years. And this is a big moment for me because I finally get to see it in person. Billy, it's more incredible than
Oh, yeah.
you tried to explain this to me.
We did a whole radio show on this.
We did a whole show on this. Incredible. Okay, my old knees now are saying.
Jimmy Church's YouTube account.
Oh, $3,000.
Is that insane? Is that just it's insane?
Yeah,
And
it's pretty unbelievable. Those tombs look giant. I mean, they are crazy big. They look crazy heavy. And just to clarify, those tombs were for burying bulls,
no,
correct?
no, 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 no. That's dogma. You're not gonna. You're gonna dig a shopping mall in the middle of the desert for bulls. How do you move, Christina? How do you move 100-ton block of granite with a lid that weighs 50, 75 tons? You're going to carve this. You're going to move this. You're going to move that for bulls. No, they are melted. There's some, in my opinion, some kind of high technology, some kind of energy. I don't know if it was for portals. I don't know if it was for time travel. I don't know if it was for cloning, rejuvenation, regrowing limbs. I have no idea. I don't. You can just let your imagination go. But I can tell you what they didn't do there is put a bull in that sarcophagus and slap a lid on it and call it a day. No. And these boxes now, just to put it back into perspective, you see it in photographs, you don't get it. You walk in, and when you see the size, it's the size of a locomotive for a train. It's that big. It's just a semi truck, the trailer of a semi truck. That's what we're talking about here. You know, it's beyond description. Beyond description. Now I've got one more video.
Well, John asks, how do you know the damage was caused after the lines were carved?
You
And
can
there were
see, no, John. Listen to me. You stand next to this, a 10-foot by 10-foot wall of granite. All the lines are perfect. All the inscriptions are perfect. And then there's this indent, it's melted. You can see that it is pushed in. You can see that. It's not pushed in already, and then they're carving straight lines into. No, you can't do that. Be impossible. And to carve all the hieroglyphics into an indentation. Why would you have an imperfect box? Listen to me. You are carving something perfect corners, perfect this, perfect flat, perfect everything. And you're going to have something that's imperfect no, you would carve it in 3 more inches to get rid of that imperfection. You understand what I'm saying? You're going to carve a perfect box. No, the melting happened after the fact. It's the only thing that makes sense. And that's it. Why would you spend 2, 3, 4, 5 years carving a box to perfectly to have an imperfection in it? You wouldn't do that. No, it happened later. It was under extreme heat, and something melted it. So, and that's it. That nobody is ever going to convince me of something different. No. And when you see it, you put your eyeballs on it. It's nuts, man. It's nuts. And that line on the bottom that I pointed out, starts, 6 feet over there. It's a perfectly straight line. And then it comes up to the melted part, but it stays straight. Stay straight. It's nuts. It's crazy. You have to see it to understand. Now I'm looking at the clock. I've got another long video. Christina?
I'm looking forward to it. Jessica, thank you so much. It says Mysteries with a History, Egypt Part 4. Jimmy mentioned videos of the Serapeum. Hopefully we get another Egypt show.
I've got lots of videos. I can do this forever.
Jessica, thank you.
A year of videos. Okay. So now I keep talking about the size of this place. Okay, the hallways, the length, the size, the beauty, the perfection. This is thousands and thousands of years old. Okay, now watch this walk that I take as I leave. Check this out.
You Yours too? There's Yolanda getting her moment on. Yeah, I saw this one here. Look at this one. Melted on the corner.
Oh, yeah. See that dent? Boom.
Yeah, this melted thing. I was just fascinated with it. It's over and over again.
Sir.
Zoom in on one of them and see the ores.
See that? Just melted. You can see it. It's melted.
Wild.
Yeah, it's melted. Look at that.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, when you see the evidence of this, and you see that it's melted. It's just fascinating.
What do you think the purpose of that was? Why did they melted it?
It's something. Okay. It just, in my opinion, there was a process that was going down, and there's a missing box from that one. We're going to see that. Look at this hallway. Just everybody, just take a look at the size. Just look at the.
Absolutely incredible. Serapeum, I've been waiting to do this for many years. It's beyond words.
Look at that. Just
Absolutely beyond words.
In the middle of the desert. Like I said, when I say shopping mall, I'm not kidding. It's like that. Look at, everybody's 100 yards behind me. Okay, so this, just to put it all into perspective, that's all I'm trying to do with everybody here. The hallway continues. Now I'm lost, by the way. I don't know where I'm going. So now, look, I just head up this way. Just like...
Billy? Oh, is that Elizabeth?
Okay. So as we come up here, I'm going to turn this down a little bit. We round the corner, and then there is another sarcophagus in the hallway that they moved from one of the back tombs. Couldn't move it any further. It's sitting in the middle of the hallway, and look, right or left, right? Okay. So now I head this way. It's unbelievable. And this is all carved out of solid rock under the desert sands of the Sahara Desert.
Unbelievable.
Somebody just said, is that a pyramid? No, this is just the Serapeum under the sands of the Sahara Desert. And
yeah, this big. Yeah. Because how big?
Now there's look. See, so now see how that's a person standing there. That's how big these, and that's without the lid.
We're just walking through here, as opposed to everything. It's huge.
You're not going to do this with chicken bones and
See, little melted here.
Yeah.
Rejuvenation machine. Look. Solid granite. God, that is just a huge box.
I'm holding the camera up above my head, trying to see. It's like, oh man. And so just to give you a little taste of what Egypt is all about. So when I keep Cristina, I understand the questions. I really do. Well, Jimmy, what this is just one little piece of what represents Egypt. Outside, you leave the Serapeum and you go back up. There's the step pyramid is right there. And then there's more. And there's more. It's every direction that you go in, you're going to find something like this. It's unbelievable. And I keep trying to express to everybody. That's why I show these videos like I did today. The size. You don't get it. Cristina, you're what? You're 5 foot tall, right? Right? You're 5 foot. You're 5'2". You're 5'5". 3 of you standing on the show would not reach the top of these boxes. You don't get it. You would stand next to that box looking up at it it's crazy. And then you have the room that it's in, and then you have the hallway that it's in, and then you have the length of the hallway, and then these are repeating all the way down. It's nuts. It's nuts. So to tell me that, this was, I don't know, about 20 years to build a Great Pyramid. I don't know. Abydos. I don't know. The Temple of Hathor, the Temple of Isis, these ginormous temples, Karnak, Luxor, right? Kamambo, these ginormous. And then you have the Serapeum. It's like a singular example of crazy technology and engineering that was obviously done in a very simple form. It was easy to do, elegant. You see the let me just so everybody can understand. Let me pop this back up again. That's 1874. 1874. We didn't go in modern times and carve this out so people could walk through it. No, that's not the case. This was discovered. Here's the stairs that I came down at the beginning of the video right there. And you just imagine being there at the first time and looking up and seeing, a 30, 40-foot ceiling, with these giant hallways that just continue on, carved through the rock below the desert sands, and it just continues on forever. It's ginormous. It's like the Mall of America in Minnesota. It is. Foot Locker, Orange Julius, the food court. It's not like that big. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's nuts.
Except what would they sell there instead?
Pig ears. Snacks. I don't know what. Mummies. They haggle. I don't know. I don't. It's unbelievable. Now, one of the things, and I was talking about this last night. Elizabeth Hoekstra was on the show. The two things that you can come away from Egypt as a tourist and go, man, yeah, the rocks were big. The Sphinx was amazing. The Great Pyramid. Wow. It's just, you can have that memory, and that's great. And I do. And the Serapeum and this kind of thing. That's not, no. For me, it was the smiling faces of the people of Egypt. The culture there is it's something to behold. And when you see Jimmy's face right at the beginning when I'm walking down the stairs, and I told Jimmy about the people of Egypt, these temples are great, but it's the people. Did you see his smile? You see that genuine happiness? That's Egypt. It's everywhere. It's infectious. It's absolutely incredible. The last night that we were there, I was flying out in the morning back to the United States, and we're at this pretty nice hotel, and we have a banquet room. We get everybody together, and we're handing out stuff and things. Well, there was a guy there, somebody that worked there. He's in a suit, and I don't know him. And I just went up and I said, "Hey, man, I've got 80 people. Is there a restaurant I can get everybody in?" And he's smiling. He goes, "Absolutely." When? I said, "Now? I'll be right back." He just walks away. This would never happen in the United States, man. I don't care who you are, what you're doing, where you are, what the establishment is. This would never happen. He comes back and says, you can have my restaurant. It's upstairs, second floor. It's all yours. I said, really? And he goes, right now. And he goes, 4-course meal. I'll give everybody options. Let's go. Just like that. I go up on stage and I said, let's go have a dinner. And thank, I forget his name. And that was it. We all went, the restaurant was ours. And he was smiling. He was so happy and just gracious and thankful. And that's just, it went on, Cristina, all day long, all across the country. It was an incredible experience. And that's what I came away with. Egypt just struck me as a culture that is refined, and they get it. They do. It's unreal. I guarantee you that the people that listen to my voice, yourself included, that you hear me say this over and over again, you're going to have a certain expectation when you go to Egypt. And that's going to be one of the things. Jimmy was right. Everybody's happy. It's like, it's insane. And I was telling Elizabeth last night, I'm flying back on the plane and I'm like, man, I got to go back and put up with the of the, just the negativity and the thing and the fighting and it really bummed me out. It really bummed me out. Egypt was so special. The people there are just incredible.
And there is one question that I have to ask before we continue with this, and one that probably a lot of people are asking. First off, what kind of food did you eat? But before you even answer that, because I know I'm not the only one asking that question.
Right.
When we're looking at these tombs, especially with the video that you showed, the black granite boxes, I was looking at I think it was a 2009 research white paper, and it talked about how a vessel made of black granite, when filled with water, has greater conductivity. So these conductors or batteries, they're not necessarily tombs. And that's kind of an interesting question or an interesting statement. All of these could maybe be battery cells. Were they battery cells, or were they actually tombs?
Yeah, I know. When we look at things like the Baghdad battery, right, it works. Here's the thing. All right, now we've got to take. This is where we've got to take the whole concept of that a step further, because I'm right with you, Cristina. But what were they doing with the power? What were they doing with the electricity? Have we seen examples of wire and cable? How do you no, we haven't. Well, at least publicly, we haven't. So what do you do with the distribution of this power if you can create it? Right? Like you're saying, fill this box full of water. The Baghdad battery, you pour orange juice in it and you can power a flashlight, right? It's right there. It works. And it's obvious that that's what, but what was the purpose of it? Now, I think that some of it was electroplating. All right. Covering things with gold and precious metals and electroplating. But how do you get the power to the object that you're going to electroplate? We do it today, alligator clips, right? And you dip it down and boom, it's electroplated. And, you have the wires coming off of, everybody knows what electroplating is today, chrome and all of that. It makes, okay. But back then, how do you get the power from the source? In this case, one of these granite boxes and what have you. How do you get it from there to what you're going to use it for? Like the Dendera light bulb is another example of that, right? So I don't know. It's there was technology there to create heat. You can see that with the melted granite. They had to have a way to light these hallways, the Valley of the Kings, inside of these pyramids where there's no soot on the ceiling, so they weren't burning oil lamps. Do you know how when you burn animal fat, right, in an oil lamp, do you know what that does to the ceiling? Right? Do you know what kind of particles are coming off? Right? It's just it would get everywhere. There's no examples of that. And you walk through the halls here of the Serapeum, and they're perfect. They're clean. It's awesome. But there isn't any windows. There isn't any way to let light in. So how were they doing it? Maybe they had a power source. Maybe they had a way to electrically light these areas. It certainly wasn't done with mirrors. You can see the length of these hallways. How was this stuff carved? I don't know. I think it's the best example of technology, though, of high technology. It's just the engineering behind this.
Jimmy, I want a TARDIS and I want to go back there and check it out.
I know,
so bad. Space, thank you so much for the super chat. It says the pyramids were apparently the only thing the Egyptians didn't record anything about it. I found that quite curious, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, is that what TBH is? To be honest? Oh, I always thought it meant like thy bigger head. And I didn't. To be honest, that's what TBH means after all these years?
After all of these years, you got to be to the curb, Jimmy.
Yeah, I got to be to the curb, man. I got to be hip. I got to be fresh. I got to be to the curb. To be honest, I don't know. The very, very limited information that we have. Here's okay. And by the way, everybody, I've got a show to do tonight, and I've got to run here. We didn't get to the guy. It looks like we're going to do a part. What is it going to be? Part 4 now?
Well, Jimmy, you and I will talk about doing an episode 4 possibly. And before you go, I do want to mention Strange Weekly News is tomorrow. And guess what? Jimmy is joining me tomorrow and Micah Hanks.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome.
Before I go, just let me say this in answer to Space Notice's question. And it's an important point. The Egyptians had papyrus. The Egyptians obviously knew how to carve into walls. The Egyptians knew how to write into clay and to preserve it, right? They had all of this. The strangest thing is that they didn't record the plans, the blueprints, the architectural designs, the layouts of any of this stuff. It doesn't exist. You would think if you are an architect, right? Imhotep, right? You're one of these dudes that you're going to go to your workforce and go, okay, you're going to unroll it, right? This is what we're going to build, right? This is how we're going to do it. It's going to be 30 cubits by 40 cubits, right? And it doesn't exist anywhere. These complex, insanely engineered perfection. There's no records of it. I don't get it. Imagine trying to build a house today without a blueprint. Right? Right.
It would be a little messy.
It's like impossible. You're not.
I mean, look at the Winchester house. There was no blueprints to that one, and that one turned out rather bizarre.
Oh, Cristina, I'll see you tonight on the show. Tonight's Fader Nights, open lines all night long. Cristina, another great show. We left half of the show on the table. We didn't get to it, and we will. We'll figure it out. All right.
We'll figure it out. I'll call you. Bye, Jimmy. Thank you. All right. That is it for today's show. The Mysteries of Egypt, Part 3. Are we going to have a Part 4? I guess we will find out next week. Do not forget to hit the notification bell on YouTube, as tomorrow is going to be Strange Weekly News with my co-hosts, Jimmy Church and Micah Hanks. You don't want to miss it. That dynamic is just too much fun. Make sure to like this video before you head out and share it with those who have the same interest. Share it with your friends, your family, forums, all that good stuff. I want to wish you a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow. Be safe. And remember, keep your eyes on the skies.